In a quiet desert town, far from the great cities and trade routes, lived a poor man named Yusuf. Most people in the town barely noticed him. Not because he was unfriendly. Not because he caused trouble. But because poverty has a strange way of making a person invisible. Yusuf's home was small and worn. The wooden door creaked loudly every time it opened. The roof leaked whenever the rains came. Inside, there were only a few simple belongings, 2 thin sleeping mats, a clay water jar, and a small wooden table. Yet for Yusuf, the hardest part of life was not the small house. It was the constant worry that lived in his heart. Every morning before the sun rose, Yusuf would wake up quietly. He did not want to disturb his wife or his 2 young children who slept beside each other on the floor. He would step outside into the cool desert air. The sky would still be dark, filled with fading stars. At that moment, Yusuf would raise his hands and whisper softly, "Ya Allah, today, please open a door for me." Then he would begin walking toward the marketplace. Sometimes he found work. Sometimes he carried sacks of grain for merchants. Sometimes he helped farmers carry water or repair fences. But many days, there was nothing. On those days, Yusuf would wander the dusty streets hoping someone might need help. And when evening came with no work, the walk home felt longer than any journey he had ever taken. Because waiting for him at home were the eyes of his children. Eyes filled with hope. "Father, did you bring food?" Each time they asked that question, Yusuf forced himself to smile. Inshallah, Allah always provides. But inside, his heart felt heavy. Weeks passed. Then months. And life seemed to grow harder. One evening Yusuf returned home with empty hands again. The sun was setting behind the dunes, painting the sky with deep orange and purple colors. But Yusuf could not enjoy the beauty. His thoughts were fixed on the small clay jar in the corner of their house. The jar that once held flour. Now it was empty. When he entered the house, his wife looked up at him quietly. She did not need to ask. She already understood. Their youngest child slept quietly in the corner. Their older child sat silently drawing shapes in the dirt with a small stick. Yusuf sat beside them and gently placed his hand on his son's shoulder. "Tomorrow will be better," he said softly. But that night, long after his family had fallen asleep, Yusuf remained awake. The room was silent. Only the soft wind outside moved against the walls. Finally Yusuf stood up. He stepped outside and looked up at the sky. Thousands of stars filled the darkness. For a long moment he stood there without speaking. Then he raised his hands. His voice trembled. "Ya Allah." The word struggled to leave his lips. Tears slowly rolled down his face. "I know you see me. I know you hear me. But my children are hungry." His voice cracked as he continued. "I try every day, Ya Rab. I search for work. I do not complain. I trust you." The desert wind moved softly around him. But the night remained silent. Yusuf slowly lowered his hands. For a brief moment, a painful thought crossed his mind. What if Allah had forgotten him? Immediately Yusuf shook his head. Astaghfirullah. No. Allah never forgets his servants. Yet the pain remained. Yusuf sat on the sand outside his house. Minutes passed in silence. Then something unusual happened. From the far end of the village road, he noticed a small moving light. It was a lantern. Someone was walking slowly toward the village. The figure moved steadily through the darkness. As the person came closer, Yusuf could see that it was an elderly traveler. The man had a long white beard and walked with the help of a wooden staff. His clothes were simple and dusty from travel. When the old man reached Yusuf's house, he stopped. For a moment, the two men simply looked at each other. Then the traveler smiled warmly. "Peace be upon you." Yusuf quickly stood up. And upon you be peace. The old man studied Yusuf's face carefully. You look like a man carrying a heavy heart. Yusuf tried to hide his emotions. It is nothing. But the old man gently shook his head. No, it is not nothing. He looked toward the sky and said softly. When a man cries to Allah in the night, the heavens hear him. Yusuf's eyes widened. How did you know I was making dua? The traveler smiled. Sometimes Allah sends strangers to remind us that He is always listening. The old man slowly sat down on the sand beside Yusuf. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then the traveler asked quietly. Tell me, my son, what troubles your heart? And for the first time in many months, Yusuf told someone everything. He spoke about the hunger. He spoke about the empty flour jar. He spoke about the fear of failing his children. When he finished, the old traveler remained silent for a moment. Then he spoke gently. Allah never abandons His servants. Sometimes He is simply waiting. Yusuf looked confused. Waiting for what? The old man's eyes reflected the lantern light. Waiting for the dua that comes from the deepest part of the heart. Then the traveler reached into his robe. He removed a small folded piece of paper. This, he said softly, contains a dua many people have forgotten. A special dua. Yusuf looked at the paper carefully. A special dua? The old man nodded. Yes. But remember something important. This is not just a dua for the tongue. It is a dua for the heart. Yusuf felt curiosity growing inside him. What does it say? The old traveler placed the folded paper into Yusuf's hands. Read it tonight, he said. And trust Allah completely. Then the old man stood up. He lifted his lantern and began walking back down the dark road. Within minutes, he disappeared into the night. Yusuf remained sitting outside his house, staring at the small folded paper in his hand. His fingers trembled slightly. Because deep inside his heart, for the first time in many months, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Yusuf remained outside for a long time that night. The desert air had grown colder, and the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Yet Yusuf barely noticed them. His attention was fixed on the small folded piece of paper resting in his hands. The old traveler had disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind nothing but that mysterious dua. For several minutes Yusuf simply stared at the paper. Part of him felt hopeful. But another part of him felt unsure. Could a simple dua really change anything? Slowly he unfolded the paper. The lantern light from inside his house barely reached the words, but he could still read them. The dua was short. Very short. But the words were powerful. They spoke of trust in Allah. They spoke of patience. And they spoke of a heart that believes that Allah's mercy is always greater than hardship. Yusuf read the words quietly. Then he read them again. And again. Something about those words felt different. They were simple, yet they carried a strange sense of calm. Finally Yusuf raised his hands. He closed his eyes and whispered the dua exactly as it was written. But this time, something had changed. He did not say it with fear. He did not say it with desperation. He said it with trust. For the first time in many months, Yusuf felt a sense of peace settle in his heart. Not because his problems had disappeared. His house was still small. His children were still hungry. But the heavy weight inside his chest felt lighter. After finishing the dua, Yusuf remained sitting under the night sky. The desert wind moved gently through the village. And slowly, Yusuf stood up and returned inside his home. Before sleeping, he whispered one final prayer. Ya Allah. I leave everything in your hands. The next morning began like every other day. The sun rose slowly over the desert. Golden light spread across the small village. Yusuf woke early as usual. He looked at his sleeping children for a moment. Then he quietly stepped outside. The village streets were calm. Merchants were beginning to open their shops. Farmers were preparing their carts. Yusuf began walking toward the marketplace again. He did not know whether he would find work. But something inside him had changed. Instead of worry, there was patience. Instead of fear, there was trust. As he walked through the busy street, he noticed something unusual. A group of merchants had gathered around a broken cart. The cart was loaded with sacks of grain. One of the wooden wheels had completely broken. The merchants looked frustrated. They were arguing about what to do. "If we don't fix this quickly," one of them said, "the grain will spoil in the sun." Another merchant shook his head. "There is no carpenter nearby." At that moment Yusuf stepped forward. "I may be able to help," he said quietly. The merchants looked at him. One of them raised an eyebrow. "You?" Yusuf nodded. "I have repaired carts before." The merchants exchanged uncertain looks. Finally one of them said, "Fine. If you can fix it, we will pay you." Yusuf immediately began examining the broken wheel. It took time. The wood was cracked badly. But with patience and careful work, Yusuf managed to repair it using spare wood from the cart. After nearly an hour, the wheel was strong enough to move again. The merchants tested the cart. It rolled smoothly across the ground. The men looked surprised. "You did good work," one of them admitted. He reached into his pouch and handed Yusuf several silver coins. For a moment Yusuf simply stared at the coins in his hand. It had been many days since he had earned this much. "Thank you," he said gratefully. With the coins, Yusuf quickly bought flour, dates, and a small piece of bread. When he returned home, his children's faces lit up with joy. Father brought food. His wife looked relieved. That evening their small home was filled with warmth. For the first time in many days, the family ate a proper meal. But Yusuf remembered something important. Before eating, he quietly raised his hands and repeated the same dua from the paper. "Ya Allah, all goodness comes from you." Days passed. And Yusuf continued reading the dua every morning and every night. Slowly, small changes began to appear in his life. Nothing dramatic. Nothing sudden. But opportunities began appearing where there had once been none. One day he helped a farmer repair a water well. Another day he helped a trader unload goods from a caravan. Then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, while Yusuf was working near the marketplace, a wealthy merchant arrived in the village. The merchant had traveled from a distant city. His caravan carried expensive fabrics and spices. But during the journey, several wooden crates had broken. The merchant needed someone trustworthy to help repair them. Many workers gathered around hoping for the job. But the merchant looked carefully at each person. Then his eyes stopped on Yusuf. "You," the merchant said. "Come here." Yusuf stepped forward respectfully. "Can you repair wooden crates?" the merchant asked. "Yes," Yusuf replied. The merchant studied his face. "I need someone honest," he said. "Someone who will not steal from the cargo." Yusuf nodded calmly. "I fear Allah. I would never take what is not mine." The merchant seemed satisfied. "Very well. Begin the work." Yusuf worked hard throughout the afternoon. He repaired the broken crates and reinforced the weak ones. The merchant inspected the work carefully. Then he smiled. "You work with care," he said. "And you work with honesty." The merchant then made an unexpected offer. "My caravan leaves tomorrow morning. I need someone to travel with us and manage the cargo. Would you like this job?" Yusuf was stunned. Traveling with a caravan meant steady income. It meant stability for his family. For a moment he struggled to speak. "Yes," he finally said. "I would be honored." That evening Yusuf returned home with news that filled his house with excitement. His wife listened carefully. His children clapped with happiness. But that night, after everyone had fallen asleep, Yusuf sat quietly outside once again. He looked up at the sky. Then he unfolded the small paper. The same dua. The same words. For a moment Yusuf remembered the old traveler who had given it to him. Who was he? Where had he come from? And why had he appeared that night? Yusuf whispered the dua once more. And deep in his heart, he began to feel something growing stronger than ever before. Gratitude. But Yusuf did not yet know that the greatest test of his life was still waiting ahead. The next morning the village was already alive with movement. The merchant's caravan stood near the edge of the marketplace. Tall camels knelt patiently while workers tied ropes and secured heavy wooden crates onto their backs. The air smelled of dust, leather, and spices brought from distant lands. Yusuf arrived early. He carried a small bundle of clothes and a few pieces of bread that his wife had prepared for the journey. His children stood beside their mother near the doorway of their home. They watched him with a mixture of pride and sadness. His youngest son ran forward and hugged him tightly. "Will you come back soon, father?" Yusuf smiled gently and placed his hand on the boy's head. "Inshallah," he said softly. "Allah will protect us." His wife looked at him with calm faith in her eyes. "We will make dua for you every day," she said. Yusuf nodded. "And I will make dua for all of you." Before leaving, he quietly raised his hands and whispered the same dua that had become part of his daily life. The words from the small folded paper. The words the mysterious traveler had given him. Then Yusuf joined the caravan. Soon the journey began. The camels stood up slowly, one by one. Their bells jingled softly as they began moving across the desert road. The caravan stretched across the sand like a long moving line. Yusuf walked beside the merchant's goods, carefully watching the crates and supplies. The wealthy merchant who had hired him was named Harun. Harun was a serious man, but he was fair. Throughout the journey he carefully observed Yusuf's work. And what he saw impressed him. Yusuf never complained. He worked patiently under the hot sun. He helped the other workers when they struggled. And every time the caravan stopped to rest, Yusuf quietly stepped away to make dua. One evening the caravan stopped near a group of tall rocks. The travelers built a small fire and prepared their evening meal. As the night grew darker, most of the workers gathered around the fire talking and laughing. But Yusuf walked a short distance away from the group. He looked up at the night sky. Then he unfolded the small piece of paper. The same dua. The same words. He whispered them slowly, just as he had done every night since meeting the traveler. Not far away, Harun noticed him. The merchant had been watching Yusuf for several days. Finally Harun approached him. "You pray often," Harun said. Yusuf looked up respectfully. "Yes," he replied. Harun sat down on a nearby rock. "Many people only remember Allah when they are in trouble," the merchant said quietly. "But you pray even when things seem to be improving." Yusuf smiled gently. "It was Allah who improved my situation," he said. "How could I forget him now?" Harun seemed thoughtful. "You speak like a man who has faced many difficulties." Yusuf nodded. "I have." Then he told the merchant about his life in the village. The hunger. The empty flour jar. The long nights of worry. And the mysterious traveler who had given him the dua. Harun listened carefully. When Yusuf finished speaking, the merchant remained silent for a moment. Then he said something surprising. "Perhaps Allah sent that traveler for a reason." Yusuf nodded slowly. "I believe that too." The next several days of travel passed peacefully. The caravan moved across endless dunes and rocky plains. Sometimes they passed small villages. Sometimes they traveled for hours without seeing another human being. Then one afternoon something unexpected happened. Dark clouds began forming in the distance. The wind grew stronger. Within minutes the calm desert air transformed into a violent sandstorm. The sky turned brown with swirling dust. The camels became restless. Workers began shouting to each other as they tried to secure the cargo. Cover the crates. Hold the ropes. Stay close together. The storm grew stronger. Sand whipped across the desert with incredible force. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Yusuf struggled to keep hold of the camel carrying the merchant's most valuable cargo. The wind roared like thunder. Several workers lost their balance and fell into the sand. In the chaos, one of the camels broke free from its rope. The animal ran wildly into the storm carrying several heavy crates of expensive spices. Harun shouted desperately, "My cargo!" Without hesitation, Yusuf ran after the camel. The wind nearly knocked him over. Sand stung his eyes and face. But Yusuf kept running. Finally he reached the frightened animal and grabbed the rope hanging from its side. With great effort he calmed the camel and slowly guided it back toward the caravan. When he returned, the workers looked at him with amazement. The storm continued for another hour before finally fading. The sky slowly cleared. The caravan gathered together to count their supplies. When Harun inspected the cargo, he realized something important. The crates Yusuf had saved contained the most valuable goods in the entire caravan. Rare spices worth a small fortune. The merchant looked at Yusuf with deep respect. "You risked your life to save my cargo," Harun said. Yusuf simply shrugged. "It was my responsibility." That night the caravan rested near a small oasis. The workers spoke excitedly about the storm and Yusuf's bravery. But Yusuf himself remained quiet. After the others had fallen asleep, he walked to the edge of the water. He looked up at the clear sky. Then he unfolded the small paper once more. The same dua. The same quiet words of trust in Allah. He whispered the dua slowly. And as he finished, he felt something unusual. A deep calm inside his heart. Almost as if something important was about to happen. Behind him, the merchant Harun approached quietly. "Yusuf," he said. "There is something I must tell you." Yusuf turned toward him. Harun looked serious. "Today you saved my caravan. And you proved something more important than strength. You proved honesty." He paused before continuing. "When we reach the city tomorrow, I will offer you a position. A permanent position. You will no longer be a simple worker. You will manage my trade routes." Yusuf stood silently for a moment. The offer felt almost unbelievable. Just weeks ago he had been a poor man in a forgotten village. Now he was being offered responsibility over a great merchant's business. Yusuf looked up at the sky again. Then he whispered softly, "Allah truly hears every dua." But deep in his heart, Yusuf also understood something else. The dua had not only changed his destiny. It had changed him. His patience. His faith. His trust in Allah. And the greatest part of his journey was still waiting to unfold. The caravan reached the great city the following afternoon. After many days of travel across endless desert land, the sight of the city felt almost unreal. Tall walls surrounded the bustling streets. Merchants from distant lands filled the markets. The air carried the smell of spices, leather, fresh bread, and burning incense. For Yusuf, it was unlike anything he had seen before. His small village had only a few narrow streets and simple homes. But here, life moved quickly. People hurried through crowded marketplaces. Traders shouted prices. Camels moved through the gates carrying goods from every direction. Harun guided the caravan through the busy streets toward a large warehouse near the edge of the market district. Workers quickly began unloading the cargo. Yusuf carefully supervised the crates, just as he had done during the journey. Harun watched him closely. The merchant had already made his decision. That evening, after the work was finished, Harun called Yusuf into his office. The room was simple but comfortable. Shelves filled with records of trade lined the walls. A large wooden table stood in the center of the room. Harun sat down and gestured for Yusuf to sit as well. "You have worked honestly," the merchant said. "And you showed courage during the storm." Yusuf lowered his head respectfully. "I only did what was necessary." Harun smiled slightly. "Many people say that. Few actually live by it." He then placed a small leather pouch on the table. Inside were several gold coins. Yusuf looked surprised. "This is your payment for the journey," Harun said. Yusuf carefully took the pouch. But before he could thank the merchant, Harun continued speaking. "And this," he said, sliding another document across the table, "is an offer." Yusuf looked down at the paper. It was a contract. Harun explained calmly. "I want you to manage part of my trade business. You will help organize caravans, supervise workers, and ensure that goods arrive safely." Yusuf felt overwhelmed. Only weeks ago, he had struggled to bring food home for his children. Now he was being offered a position of trust and responsibility. I do not know what to say," Yusuf admitted. Harun leaned back in his chair. "Say yes," the merchant replied simply. Yusuf nodded. "Yes. I accept." The following months passed quickly. Yusuf worked with honesty and dedication. He managed shipments. He organized caravans. He treated workers fairly. And slowly, the merchant's business grew even stronger. But something about Yusuf never changed. No matter how busy he became, he always found time for dua. Every morning. Every night. The same small folded paper remained in his pocket. The same words that had given him hope during the darkest time of his life. One evening, several months later, Yusuf stood on a balcony overlooking the busy city market. The sun was setting. Golden light filled the streets. Harun joined him. "You have done excellent work," the merchant said. "Better than I expected." Yusuf smiled humbly. "Allah made it easy." Harun nodded. Then he asked a question. "Tell me something, Yusuf. If your life is better now, why do you still carry that old piece of paper?" Yusuf removed the folded paper from his pocket. He opened it carefully. The words were slightly faded now. But they still held the same meaning. "This dua," Yusuf said quietly, "reminds me of who I was." He looked out over the crowded market. "It reminds me of the nights when I had nothing. The nights when my children were hungry. And the night when a stranger appeared with these words." Harun listened carefully. "Do you believe that stranger was sent by Allah?" the merchant asked. Yusuf thought for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes. I believe Allah sent him to remind me of something important." "And what was that?" Harun asked. Yusuf smiled gently. "That hardship is not the end of the story. It is often the beginning." A few weeks later, Yusuf returned to his village for the first time since joining the caravan. But this time, he did not return as the poor man who had once left. He arrived with supplies. Food. Clothing. Money to repair homes. And gifts for the children of the village. When Yusuf's own children saw him, they ran toward him with excitement. His wife stood quietly at the doorway, tears in her eyes. Yusuf embraced his family. And for the first time in a long time, their home was filled not only with food, but with peace. That night, after everyone had fallen asleep, Yusuf stepped outside just as he had done many months earlier. The desert sky was filled with stars. The same stars that had watched him cry during the darkest night of his life. Yusuf unfolded the small piece of paper once more. The same dua. The same quiet words of trust in Allah. He raised his hands and whispered the dua again. But this time, his voice carried something new. Gratitude. Because Yusuf finally understood the lesson behind everything that had happened. Allah had not ignored his prayers. Allah had been guiding him the entire time. Through hardship. Through patience. Through faith. And sometimes, the answer to a sincere dua does not arrive immediately. Sometimes it begins with a small moment. A stranger on a dark road. A few simple words on a small piece of paper. But when a heart truly trusts Allah, even the smallest dua can change a person's destiny forever.